related to adding electricity to the bus shelter for light and heat, and a sixth condition related to reconstructing the concrete sidewalk around the corner of Lyndale and Franklin. So if there is no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Kronzer?
Aye.
Lipke-Peer?
Aye.
Magrino?
Aye.
Rockwell?
Aye.
Sweezy?
Aye.
Freeland?
Aye.
6-0.
And that motion carries. That concludes our discussion on item 6. And our final item for discussion tonight is item 7, the 212 James redevelopment. And staff is Ms. Widmeyer. I understand there are some outstanding issues related to landscaping, so perhaps you could highlight those.
Yes, it's my understanding too that the applicant just wants to talk about a few particular conditions relating to landscaping, and unfortunately this is being really slow. Well, since it's taking so long, I didn't bring the copies. So the specific conditions are from the site plan recommendation, and those are number 6 and number 9, the highlighted ones in particular. There we go. So number 6 pertains to just the general minimum tree requirement for the whole PUD. And so what was proposed with the landscape plan was 11 on-site trees and 24 are required. And then number 9 pertains to the parking lot at across the street on the Irving side, or east of Irving. And so there's several conditions pertaining to landscaping, but the highlighted ones are the ones that they want to talk about. One being that at least one tree is provided for each 25 linear feet of parking lot frontage. And then secondly, that each parking space is located within 50 feet of an on-site tree. And here's where having PDF would be helpful. Oops, there we go. And I'll just note one thing. So with this parking lot on the east side, the applicant wasn't really proposing to add much landscaping. They were adding some boulevard trees or some existing, but it looks like these would all be new that they would install there. So, of course, the purpose of our landscaping requirements is aesthetics, but as well as reducing the urban heat island effect. So in looking at what's existing there, we did feel that it was not impractical to comply with most of these landscaping requirements, so that's why these conditions came about. And we did estimate that not more than 6 spaces would probably be eliminated by complying with all these landscape standards. And so by providing some more trees in the Irving Avenue parking lot, we concluded that the general overall minimum tree requirement would be met. So that's where those conditions came from. I believe that the applicant has a revised landscape plan to show you, but this is what was analyzed by the staff, and that's why we came up with those conditions. So if there are any questions, I can take them now or see what the applicant has.
Okay. Are there any questions of staff? If there are none, I'll open the public hearing on this item. I'd like to ask the applicant to speak first, and please state your name and address for the record.
David Wellington with Wellington Management.
I was just going to ask, maybe you could highlight some of those landscaping related issues and kind of what you're asking for or taking issue with.
Lydia Major is right behind me here from LHB. I want to just thank Janelle and also Lisa Steiner before her for all the work that they've done and for you guys being willing to consider our applications. Our intent here is to provide, obviously, long-term aesthetic appeal and reduce heat island effect, but also to have operational functionality for our building, and we are concerned about that. The maximum parking for this site condition is 288, and the minimum is 107. In our original proposed application, we had 135 stalls, so just slightly over that minimum. With the revised plans that Janelle just discussed, we'd be down to 129. So we are concerned about that long term for this location. It's not a super dense land use right now, but we have plans for it to be. And so we want to just make sure that we highlight that for you. We appreciate your consideration. I think Lydia can put up the drawings for you.
Good evening. I'm Lydia Major, landscape architect from LHB. You should now have in front of you a revised landscape plan that represents a number of the changes that Janelle suggested to us in terms of the layout of the parking lot. We still do find that we're having a difficulty meeting the requirements for items 6 and 9, especially 9B. So the plan you have in front of you now shows 17 overstory trees on the site. As opposed to the requirement of 24. We had 11 previously, so we've improved that by 6 overstory trees. I did want to note that the plan as a whole has 87 trees on it, and 47 of those are new boulevard trees. So we've made quite a substantial impact in terms of the number of the trees on the site as a whole. The change to the parking lot added 6 overstory trees, as I mentioned earlier, as well as 16 new ornamental trees. It's our understanding from conversations with Mr. Pinkala from the Forestry Department that we want to provide an adequate root space for trees to actually survive in this location, and overstory trees would not do well in those narrow areas along both sides of the parking lot. So that's why we have not chosen to show overstory trees along the north and east sides of the new parking lot arrangement. So again, the new plan shows 17 as opposed to 24 overstory trees on the site. And we are not meeting the requirement for having 1 tree per each 25 linear feet of parking lot frontage, but you can see that we've done a substantial amount of tree planting along the areas in front of those parking lots, and are planning to have quite a bit of shrub and perennial plantings in those areas as well.
All right. Are there any questions of the applicant? Okay. Hearing none, is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. And commissioners, we have, looks like 8 applications before us. Are there any further questions of staff or the applicant, or would someone like to start off the discussion with a motion? Commissioner Vreeland.
Craig Pinkala has been referred to. Is there any actual information from him about the trees? I mean, insufficient planting space is only an obstacle unless you aren't willing to put in additional planting space that could be under permeable pavers. I mean, the narrowness of a strip is not necessarily determinative of whether a canopy tree could be planted.
Yes, I'm seeing this revised plan for the first time along with you. So Craig has not been consulted on this. He hasn't seen the revised plan either. I know we have considered spacing of trees in some occasions, but yeah, for this project particularly, we haven't had the opportunity yet.
Okay. Commissioner Luke-Pepier.
I have a question for Janelle. Hey, Janelle, has the applicant at all mentioned any proposals for alternative compliance, given that they won't be complying with this, such as the permeable pavers or other means of kind of alternatively meeting our goals?
From what I understand from what they just said, the boulevard trees are maybe considered an alternative, especially for around the 212 James site. There's hardly any existing boulevard trees, so that is a huge improvement. So that could be considered an alternative.
And Commissioner Vreeland.
Again, Janelle. So this new proposal is something that we should have a staff recommendation about. Do you have a recommendation about the new proposal?
I mean, our current
we have a recommendation of the old proposal. Is there a recommendation for the new one?
Yes, and as you can see, this would, and which is why they were calling out those three conditions to talk about. They would not meet those three conditions. It could be, this could be considered acceptable as meeting the intent. They certainly are providing a lot more trees in lieu of the canopy trees. They are providing a lot of ornamental trees. So it's starting to get to that intent. We haven't had, of course, a staff discussion on this, so I don't know if our recommendation would change or not, but there are certainly things that could be considered for alternative compliance.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any further questions? I might suggest if there is interest in accommodating this revised landscape plan that we just keep any motion language a little bit more general, that the applicant work with staff on a revised landscaping plan. Is there any further, well, if there are no further questions, would someone like to start things off with a motion? We have 8 applications before us. Commissioner Vreeland.
Not me.
Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Lupke-Pier.
Hi. Okay, I'll start out by moving staff recommendation for items A and B, which is the rezoning applications.
All
Second.
right. We have a motion and a second to approve items A and B, the rezoning applications. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Cronzer,
Aye.
Lipke-Pier,
Aye.
Magrino,
Aye.
Rockwell,
Aye.
Sweezy, Freeland,
Aye.
6-0.
Okay, and that motion carries. We have 6 more applications before us. Commissioner Lupke-Pier.
All right, I will also move staff recommendations for items C and D.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve items C and D, the conditional use permits, or 2 of the conditional use permits. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Cronzer,
Aye.
Lipke-Pier,
Aye.
Magrino,
Aye.
Rockwell,
Aye.
Sweezy, Freeland,
Aye.
6-0.
Okay, and we're down to 4 more applications, a couple more conditional use permits, variance, and site plan review. Anyone like to make a motion on any of those items? Anyone like to make a motion? Commissioner Kronz.
I will make a motion. I will move staff recommendation for item E, the conditional use permit, and modifying condition 2 to the following. The applicant shall work with staff to increase landscaping in the parking lot, providing, let's see, where'd that go? No less than 17 trees at the parking lot.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve item E, the conditional use permit for the surface parking lot, with a revision to condition number 2 that the applicant work with staff to increase landscaping in the parking lot to add at least 17 trees. Ms. Widmeyer.
Could I get some clarification? So that item E is related to the parking lots over on the west side. So it'd be kind of a, I don't know, the impact might be a little bit different than expected. I think you're trying to go for the east parking lot.
You are correct, Janelle.
All right.
How about I'll offer an amendment to condition 2 stating that the landscaping, work with staff to increase landscaping in the parking lots, but no less than the number of trees provided on the landscape plan we just received.
Okay. Is there a second? And we have a motion and a second. We'll just replace that original motion amending condition 2 that the applicant work with staff to provide no less landscaping than shown on the landscape plan. Commissioner Rockwell.
I believe this is still referring to the same interior parking lot. Is that not correct?
I think that we want to be talking about the parking lot at 208 to 226 Irving.
But I think this shows more landscaping.
Commissioner Kronzer, did you?
I guess I have a question for the applicant. Does not the landscape plan we just received have more landscaping in those interior parking lots? I thought so.
Good question.
There's an oak there that I didn't see before.
Yes, the landscape plan that you just received has more landscaping on the land around the parking lot, but interior to the site. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Very good.
Did that provide the clarification you needed? Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion on item E? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Freeland.
Aye.
Sweezy.
Aye.
Rockwell.
Aye.
Negrino.
Aye.
Lipkeeper. Aye. Kranzer.
Aye.
6-0.
And that motion carries. Item F is for a conditional use permit for the surface parking lot on Irving Avenue.
Okay, let's try this
Commissioner
again.
Kronzer.
I'll propose staff recommendations with a modified second condition to item F. Second condition being work with staff to increase landscaping in the east parking lot with no less than 17 trees addition, or 17 trees, period.
All right. Is there a second? And Mr. Wittenberg.
Commissioners, just like the rest of you, we're all seeing this landscaping plan for the first time, but it appears that there's a pretty significant lack of shrubs maybe in this plan. I don't know how it compares to the previous plan. I have not held the two next to one another, but the planting schedule shows a quantity of a total of 13 shrubs, and I think we would expect maybe a combination of trees and shrubs on particularly that eastern parking lot. So just, I don't know if you want to speak to that as part of the motion or just let staff work that out with the applicant.
Okay, and I might ask the applicant to respond.
The applicant is willing to add the shrubs as shown. They're actually in the plan. They're in those planting and shrub bed areas. They're just not called out item by item.
Okay. And all right, is there any further discussion on that motion on item F? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Kranzer.
Aye.
Lipkeeper. Aye. Negrino.
Aye.
Rockwell.
Aye.
Sweezy. Aye. Freeland.
Aye.
6-0.
And that motion carries. Next, we have item G, which is a variance.
I will move a motion to approve staff recommendation for variance G with the one stated condition.
All right, we have a motion by Kronzer to approve variance G with the one stated condition. Is there a second? Yes, then Commissioner Kronzer.
Mr. Wittenberg, I read the condition stating what we just approved would equal except as allowed by Planning Commission. Would you read the condition on G that way?
That you properly dealt with that in previous
Yes.
motions. Yes. I would
Okay.
read that one.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second on item G to approve. Clerk, please call the roll.
Kranzer.
Aye.
Lipkeeper. Aye. Negrino.
Aye.
Rockwell.
Aye.
Sweezy. Aye. Freeland.
Aye.
6-0.
And that motion carries. And finally, we have item H, the site plan review. Commissioner Kronzer.
Janelle, have you had time to help us with this one? It appears, based on what we just voted on, condition 6 could be removed. and maybe 9B.
Maybe the applicant could clarify the total number of canopy trees that are now proposed. If that's meeting or where they're at with that, maybe what they're proposing on here could be inserted instead of meeting the minimum general requirement that they provide X
Okay.
many canopy trees and X many ornamental trees. I just don't know the total of those.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I might ask the applicant to respond.
So the revised plan in front of you now has 17 canopy trees interior to the two sites, the two blocks. We have added 16 ornamental trees. We have 87 total trees, and 47 of those are boulevard trees, which means that there are 40 trees on the property itself. 17 of which are canopy trees. Does that answer the question?
7 are boulevard. I'm missing 8 trees.
I'm missing 8 trees.
17 canopy trees, 16 ornamental.
I have 87 total trees, 47 boulevard trees, of which 17 are canopy trees, and the remaining 30 are ornamentals.
There you go. Okay.
16 was just the number I added, but I understand what you mean.
14 missing. Okay. That still leaves me a question on condition number 9.
And you're looking for some direction from staff
Yes.
on whether that 9B
B could be removed.
just be removed.
I don't know if there's a way to phrase it that the alternate landscape plan be installed to replace that 9B and 9E, or unless you're intending to keep E, because those are the two that they were asking for exceptions on now. Okay, they believe that they're now in compliance with 9E.
9E. Okay. I have another question for Seth. So can we condition or require boulevard trees to be planted? I don't think we can.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Kranz, I
Can we-
didn't quite hear the question.
Can the planning commission condition boulevard trees to be planted?
As part of alternative compliance, I believe you have that
Okay.
authority, yep.
And that could be done in consultation with the park board. They, of course, would be the final say-so on the type chosen. and
Okay.
such.
All right, I think I'm ready here. So I'll move staff recommendation for item F, site plan review with the 16 conditions, modifying condition number 6 to say the minimum number of on-site trees shall be 47, 17 of them being canopy and the remainder being ornamental. Modifying condition 9B to state the applicant shall work with the staff and park board staff to plant approximately 70 boulevard trees. Sorry, approximately 40 boulevard trees. How about that? That's close, right?
Not quite.
Not quite.
Okay, so we got the intent, but yeah, what they're providing for on-site trees total, that's including canopy and ornamental, is 40. So we just insert that for the 6th condition, provide at least 40 on-site. And then for 9B, let's see, then they're providing 47.
47.
trees.
Well, also I had those flipped. Okay, so it's 40 on site, 17 canopy, and that's 47 boulevard trees. Got it.
Okay.
Do we want to restate the condition?
Yeah, I'll do that. First of all, we have a motion to approve item H, the site plan review, with some modifications to conditions 6 and 9. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. So I might just restate that just to make sure staff understands what our intent is. So we're amending condition number 6 to state that the minimum number of on-site trees shall be provided, or I should say shall be at least 40, 17 of which are canopy trees. Mr. Wittenberg, do we want to be a little bit more general on that just to be on the safe side, or is that, can we work with that?
We can work with that.
Okay.
And was there a reference to the boulevard trees that made it into the motion, or?
I believe
said yes.
That was 9B.
Yeah, the boulevard trees was in 9B. So condition 6 will just state that there need to be at least 40 on-site trees, 17 of which are canopy trees. And then item 9B is that the applicant work with staff to plant approximately 47 boulevard trees, and striking the language that's currently in the staff recommendation. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the site plan review. Commissioner Vreeland.
Yes, I don't know if I'm really thrilled with the landscape plan and 30 crabapple trees. This probably isn't the right place to plant them. So I'm hoping that staff is willing to work with Craig Pinkella on getting the right trees in the right place for the right reason. I just think this seems kind of rushed and not really particularly tree friendly or thought out. And there are ways of increasing some of those smaller tree sites fairly easily. I mean, so adding some canopy trees would not be impossible. And I would encourage for the quality of the development to not just have a row of crappy crab apples. I think canopy trees on that side would be very helpful.
All right. And Commissioner Magrino.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, generally, I think this is a good project. We had kind of a similar situation last year where we had an experienced applicant come forward with a ton of conditions on the site plan review. And I know our zoning code is kind of a bear to work with sometimes. So things like CUPs and variances are one thing, but when you have like 16 conditions of approval, to me that kind of feels like maybe it's not quite done yet. And so we've now a couple of times had to spend something, I don't know how long it's been, but quite a bit of time like individually nitpicking things on the site plan that is ultimately kind of complicated later if there are appeals and things like that. So I just encourage you, next time you come forward with something to, at least give Ms. Whittemire a few days heads up so she can take a look at it.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve the site plan review with some modifications to conditions 6 and 9. And if there is no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Kranzer.
Aye.
Lipke. Aye. Magrino.
Aye.
Rockwell.
Aye.
Swayze. Aye. Vreeland.
Aye.
6-0.
All right, and that motion carries. So that concludes our discussion on item 7 and concludes our meeting for today. We have committee of the whole this Thursday. Our next meeting is April 10th, and we are adjourned. Oh, excuse me. Well, we can reopen the meeting. We do have a 9th application for a preliminary plat, and would someone like to make a motion to approve the preliminary plat?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. There is no further discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Kranzer.
Aye.
Lipke.
Aye.
Magrino.
Aye.
Rockwell.
Aye.
Swayze. Aye. Vreeland.
Aye.
6-0.
Okay, and that motion carries. That does conclude our discussion on item 7, and we are adjourned.